Hello everyone, for Remnant From The Ashes ahead for the release of its sequel later this month, which I also plan on covering, but I wanted to check out the first title first, of course, From The Ashes. It's often referred to as Dark Souls with guns and has a big emphasis on cooperation in many cases. But beyond just those descriptions, it's also a game that focuses on procedural generation, almost hack and slash style of gameplay where you are killing enemies, pulling up loot, advancing your character just to dive into the next procedurally generated bit of content. To do more of the same, and we will discuss all of that over the course of this review, but right out of the gate I review games after 100% gameplay. The time to set me apart from other reviewers on the platform, and while that does include the achievements, it also includes a lot more than if you are curious about everything I cover. There is a video linked in the description below. That we will go over it, and my Steam profile is also public and linked below. From the Ashes was a game from 2019, which passed me by at the time, as I was still working my regular salary job before I started YouTube full time. While the game is often built as Dark Souls with guns, for me, I would say it's mostly more of an action-adventure until you start getting into the higher difficulties. At which point it kind of more lives up to that title, but on normal and even hard it's more of a Souls-like. As somebody put in on my impressions video, where it copies some of the mechanics of a Souls-like game. But the combat does not really feel that way until you start ramping up difficulty. But first when you fire up the game, you will make a character. This is a cosmetic simply picking the visual appearance of the character you are going to be playing and looking at for the next while. As all of the major character progressions choices come later on, but there is a cosmetic character creations. Next up is difficulty, so difficulty comes in normal, so Apocalypse is very much so adjustable. You are not meant to stick with one difficult the entire time, but raise each bit of content, so to speak, is related there. I like to put it, which includes the campaigns, the DLCs, adventure mode, survival mode, and every time you fire up one of those, you will be able to pick one of these difficulties. It's important to know that Nightmare and Apocalypse are not meant to be starting points. Those are intended for characters, people who have a functional build and potentially even playing with other people. You are meant to start the game on normal and hard, get a character, go and get all that gear and everything, and then start playing on the higher tiers once you have sort of got a bit system mystery going. So I think that's important to note. Next up, so we have the story setup for this game. Remnant From The Ashes takes place in a sort of fantasy post-apocalyptic settings. The world has been destroyed by an evil menace called the Roots, and bastions of humanity are doing their best to survive in the face of such cataclysm events. As part of the main campaign, our character comes into contact with one such bastion, where we will engage with a story that puts us on the road to addressing this threat. This is done by gaining access to a sort of keystone that allows us to teleport to other parts of the world and other worlds in general, which leads us to a lot of more alien-style biomes. And to keep it spoiler-free, that's really all you need to know. You are going to go on this adventure, try to find the cause of the root, what you can do about its usual stuff, but beyond just the basic informations. Some things that I liked here were that actual narrative from kind of know what you are doing and why you are doing it. What the game does really well is actually hiding the sort of background lore. It's there if you want to find it, but every place you go to almost invariably has more lore than you can discover that will teach you more about the world. You are on the races, you are encountering the spaces of aliens, you are running into all that stuff, so they did a really good job with building out the rest of the story without necessarily directly putting it in your face, which I think suits this style. Gameplay very well. Now on the flip side of the story is very short. My first playthrough of the story took about 10 hours. Now this is kind of game that you are going to be playing so multiply times, and the content later becomes almost sort of dungeon runs. So that's not necessarily huge a deal, but if you are playing this game explicitly for the story, it's very short. And I think that only really becomes a